Namaskar, Jai Hind. Welcome to my show, The Untold Saga. I'm your host. My name is Puneet Singh Mehra. Most of you know me, but still, I'll reintroduce you to all of you one more time. Today again, I'm here with a new story, a new king, a new era which the world doesn't know. And for today, we have our special guest, Mr. Jay Chauhan, who is the author of The Love in the Empire. Hi, Mr. Chauhan. How are you?
Fine. Namaskar. I'm pleased to be on your program. And so today's topic is the Vikramaditya, ruler of India, who was the ruler of the North India, as well as currently the parts of Afghanistan and Iran, which were a part of the empire of this Maharaja Vikramaditya. We will talk about that because that history is the untold history, and why is untold also we'll talk about it today.
Yes. And Mr. Chauhan, I'm pleased today you wear the Indian traditional dress, Sherwani. Can you please tell me something about the dress?
Yes, I will explain to you that I wear this dress on special occasions, and I had this parts all done up in Rajkot, Gujarat, and I do a charitable organization and support them, and they did it for me, and I'm pleased to put it on whenever there is a formal occasion, because I'm proud to be Indian. I was born in Africa, East Africa, and then I studied in England and Germany. I live in Canada. And in today's world, as you see, in the COVID time, we see that every human being is now close in the world. And although we are now being protected by our own countries, like we are in Canada, you and I are in Canada, but it does not mean that we do not have our Indian identity. So we are here to make our contribution to this society and to remember our own society where we come from originally culturally, and we have a long, colorful history of a few thousand years that we should portray. And I'm very excited that you brought out some issues of the Indian history that will make this program somewhat interesting and entertaining for many people.
True.
So let's hear from you. What did you dig out about the history of the Maharaja of Vikramaditya?
So today, I'm going to tell you the story of a Maharaja Vikramaditya, the man who conquered the entire India. He ruled over India. A man who ruled over Asian countries. The king who ruled over Middle Eastern. His name is Maharaja Vikramaditya. So let me tell you the story of Maharaja Vikramaditya. Vikramaditya was born on Ujjain at 101 BC till 15 after death. His era is stuck from that period. Maharaja Vikramaditya is a king that the entire world know him as a noble person, the man of his words, the man who is even respected by every fellow citizen around the world. Even with the Arabs, even with the Irans, the Persians, the Turkish, the Mongolians, the Chinese, every country respected the Maharaja Vikramaditya. So let me tell you the Vikramaditya story. After when he conquered the entire India, he went to conquer Middle East. He got victorious in the Babylon, Persian Empire, in the Turks, and when he conquered the entire countries, he went to conquer Arabia. Afterwards, when he went over there, he conquered the Arabians. And the Arabians, the entire Arabian citizens, they never considered Vikramaditya as a conqueror. Even Vikramaditya never considered himself as a conqueror. They know him as a liberator, a savior to humankind. Vikramaditya known for his kindness, his courage, his valor, his wisdom, and the entire world knows how great the king he was. The entire country is full with the ignorance of darkness. The famous poet, I forgot his name. Sorry, I think his name. My mistake if I pronounced the name wrong. The poem name is Sar ul Akul, page 350. Siraham Pinto. They mention Maharaja Vikramaditya name over there. They even consider the first phrase of a poem start with Itra Shapathai Santal Vikramaditya. It means those fortunate who lived around the Vikramaditya empire are the fortunate one around the world. They lived happily. And what is the best quality of the Maharaja Vikramaditya? When he conquered Persia, when he conquered Arabs, the Turkish, Vikramaditya shared the Puranas, the Vedas, the Sanskrit culture to all these countries. They gave him the title of the King of Aryavarta, means the King of all the Aryan empires. He also even cheers by the Jewish community over there, by the Arabs, by the Turks. Maharaja Vikramaditya said something to the Persian community. He said, the Persian community, he accepted the Persian as an Aryans. He even told the entire world that the Persians are the long lost cousins of Indians. So the entire Middle East is conquered by the Maharaja Vikramaditya. The Asian countries from Mongols to China, they were conquered by the Maharaja Vikramaditya. Even the India, from Kashmir to Kanyakumari, they all conquered by the Maharaja Vikramaditya. So that's the story of Vikramaditya. His greatness also told by the many Arabs, many Turks, many Kurdistan, everywhere. Every one of them knows the Maharaja Vikramaditya, the man of his words, the greatness, a benevolent king. He shared his wisdom to all those countries. Even if you read about that poem from Sad ul Akul, they mention over there the Vikramaditya is the destroyer of the darkness. And one more thing about Vikramaditya is Vikramaditya is the one who started the perfect postal services around his provinces. So that's how the Vikramaditya built his empire. So I want to tell every one of them, if someone thinks or someone has disagreed, like no, the Arabs never conquered or Iran never conquered, to every one of them, I want to let you know there is one king. His name is Maharaja Vikramaditya, the person who conquered the entire Middle East by his greatness. So what do you think about this story, Mr. Chauhan?
Okay, I'm going to give you my interpretation actually. See, how is history written and described? History is written by the victors and very often forgotten that other things happen which later generations do not know it did happen. So what has happened to Indian history is that the Muslim people, especially from Afghanistan, Iran area, conquered India as well. In 1192, Prithviraj Chauhan was conquered, and then the Muslim rule more or less began at that time. And Nadir Shah came from Iran and conquered India and took all the wealth and declared a tax holiday for 3 years in Iran. So that portion of the story, let's say 1192 to roughly the time 1857, the rule of Muslim people, the Mughal empire, so to speak, has been explained, pronounced, and the Mughals had their own historians who wrote the stories. Very often they were horseback, but they have a historian that would write the story. And it was almost 700 years. So this part of the story of Maharaja Vikramaditya has been buried because of that situation. 1857, the British took over and they wrote a lot of history. They were the victors. So very often in the West and even in India, we perceive our own history from their perspective. The Muslim history, where they built the Taj Mahal, ruled India, and the British wrote the history, and then we see the history from their point of view. But what I'm happy about to see you, Puneet, is that you're discovering, and I'm learning from you, the history of India and the parts of history that Indian people ought to know. That's the reason I put on this Indian dress, actually, to say to the Indian people that we have a proud history. And let's go back to this time, and I just want to refresh your memory that, am I correct that Maharaja Vikramaditya ruled during the period 100 before Jesus Christ and 15 years after Jesus Christ? Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
So anybody interested, I suggest they Google that period and research that portion of the history, and it is Vikramaditya. And how do you spell it?
It's Vikram-Aditya.
Vikramaditya. So those who are listening, just let me spell it again. Vikram Aditya, Aditya.
Yes.
The time when he ruled was before the time of Jesus Christ, actually, the year 2000 years ago. So our Indian history goes back much further than that, than European history, in how we settle in the Mesopotamia, in the time of the Indus Valley civilization and the urbanization. Ours is a living civilization, actually. It's not like Egypt. It was conquered by the Persians. It was conquered by the Romans, actually, and today is ruled by the Muslim rule, where it is totally changes character. But our history continues, actually, from the time of Mohenjo-daro to time today. But one thing I observe in that history, that our own people, meaning the Indian people, do not know the history. We do not show the history. That's why when I wrote my novel that you mentioned earlier, I wrote it in a romantic Bollywood style, because that's how we enjoy reading the history. Like the story of the family, the story of love, the story of actually challenges of life. But it's very, very important that we change our perspective on modern history, that we see Indian people as a continent in itself. Although we have many languages, more than 22 languages in one continent, even today. But after 1947, we are beginning to understand that we ought to see ourselves as one unit, understand our common history. So when Vikramaditya was ruling, he ruled much of the Middle East and a lot of the Indian continent as well.
Even Asians, like the Chinese, the Mongols, the Turkestan, the Kazakhstan, the Afghanistan, Pakistan, everyone. The main difference between the Maharaja Vikramaditya, the greatest, versus Alexander, Cyrus, Darius, it's only one. Alexander, Cyrus, they rule over the dead bodies of a people. They kill people and they conquer. That's how they live. But Vikramaditya, they rule over the hearts of the people. He always considered himself as a savior, as a liberator, not as a conqueror. So that's the difference between our Indian Maharaja and the rest of the world. We always say, in the entire world, Vasudevai Kutumbukum means the world is one family.
So let me comment on that part and then we close it off. But here's what I want to say on that issue.
Yeah.
If you look at the Hindu history, this is Vikramaditya in Hindu history of India.
Yeah.
It reflects even today that India is not a country that is going to be strong and powerful, sit on the Security Council hopefully one day, and then have nuclear weapons today, a powerful economy that's about third or fourth, and one day India will regain its glory, with not too many decades from now. When we do regain that glory of the India and Indian people as to what they've done to create the civilization of the world, today you can see that in the European history, it was built upon England, France, Spain, and Italy conquering other nations, including Alexander, who came to India.
Yes.
The history of India is created through the religions, actually, the Buddhist religion, the Hindu religion, and Buddhist religion was then moved to Japan and China. So India was more concerned about the inner aspects of the human being, and the Western civilization was more concerned about the outward expression and conquering and changing your surroundings. And you can see the effect on the climate change as to how it is happening when you change the environment of this earth so much. It's a good talk in the Corona period when the world comes together and understands all of our civilizations in the past and what is the path forward. And the path forward, in my view, is the peacefulness that we can acquire understanding when Corona happens, that each one of us equal and the human society is one, because we are all affected with the coronavirus at this time. So it's a good time to reflect history. It was a pleasure talking to you and appreciate your program.
And I want to tell every one of them, of my viewers, let me tell you one more thing. India is known as the peacock throne. That's why I also have a peacock feather today with me. And I'll tell you what the story with me like in a short period of time. What happened to Chauhan? I went to a temple and there's a lady. She saw me. She came to me. She was like, "What's your name, boy?" I was like, "Puneet Singh Mehra." And she gave me this feather. And she told that peacock feather is the pride, is the kindness, it's the generosity. Make sure you spread your positivity around the world. So that's why today I wear my peacock feather.
That's very good on you, Puneet. So,
thank you so much. Thank you so much, John.
Good. So we'll do another program shortly. And thank you so much. Goodbye for now.
Namaskar, Mr. John. Jai Hind.
Jai Hind.